I love what your dad said because he was a wrestling coach at Cornell for what, 25 years. And he said, to you, he said, John, there's three people you're going to have to beat if you want to be successful, right? And love for you to share that story with our listeners.
I've written 5 books, and my dad has made it into every book. Not huge, just one story per book. I didn't overdo it, but the man was a good teacher. He was a pastor of Christian churches, two different churches for 40 years, and he was a wrestling coach, Ivy League wrestling coach for 25 years. So he just had a lot to teach. He was a storyteller, and he'd say, Johnny, tonight on that mat, you have 3 people to beat. Number 1, your opponent. Number 2, yourself. Overcome your fears. Well, that still applies. And then thirdly, he'd say, and you need to beat the referee. Wait a minute, Dad. You mean the guy in the black and white striped shirt who made 3 questionable calls? I only lost by a point. If he hadn't made those 3 questionable calls, I would have won the match. And he'd always say, you must be, this is the punchline, and I'm shortening this metaphor, but the punchline is, you must be good enough to beat the ref. You must be good enough to beat the ref. And I always kid people about my daughter, Molly, who is actually on our team now at QBQ Inc. She's in her 30s. When she was in high school, she'd come home and say, well, Coach Jay said we would have won the game if the officials had called more penalties on the other team. And then I'd have to say, but Molly, your team didn't score any goals. They lost 1-0. And the 40-year-old coach would teach the athletes to blame the referees. And that's what happens in America today. We're always teaching blame. We're modeling blame. I mean, we could talk about politics and people make hearings in Congress, all kinds of finger pointing going on. But all that matters is John Miller, as a father, as a grandfather, as a husband, as a professional. Am I asking whodunit kind of questions, or am I asking, what can I do right now to solve the problem? What can I do to make a difference? Those are much better questions. I must be good enough to beat the ref. My last comment there, Charles, is the referee is a metaphor for anything beyond my control. I cannot control the officials. So can I be better on the field or on the mat? My dad would simply say, all right, you lost by a point, but could you have taken your opponent down one more time for another 2 points? Could you have escaped in the third period? He always made me look in the mirror, and that's a good thing.
That is good. And I love just your twist on the serenity prayer that if you want to win, don't focus on or complain about the things beyond your control, period. Some problems are best to let go of. For all the rest, be good enough to beat the ref.